Well, hey biology, hope you're doing well. When you watch this video, first off, thank you for watching it. I hope to engage you and help you understand mutations. Remember this mutation note packet, it's due in class next time we meet. So let's go ahead and get started. We've been talking about DNA and how it's important, how it's the book of you, and we've been discussing how it leads to the development of traits and characteristics, and how changes in it can mean nothing or something, or could even mean cancer. But what those changes are? Those changes are mutations. And so some of our objectives here are define mutation and describe the different types of mutations. So there's different types of mutations I want you to know. They'll help prepare you for AP biology. And also describe the effects mutations can have on genes. We'll play this telephone game in class, hopefully the next time we meet, because it's fun. It just illustrates mutations, okay? So mutations are heritable changes in DNA. Heritable means you can receive them from your mom, your dad. Also heritable could mean like once a mutation happens in a certain cell line, it could pass on to the next cell line. So mutations are changes in the nucleotide sequence, remember A, T, C's, and G's, of DNA that are passed on from one cell or organism to another. So mutations occur by a variety of processes, including replication errors. Remember, you need to know all about DNA replication, the 4 enzymes involved, the polymerase, ligase, primase, and helicase, that are not corrected by repair systems. So there's a couple different types of mutations. Somatic mutations occur in body cells, so you don't pass these on to your children, but they will be passed on to future cells in that line. Germline mutations do occur in sex cells, and so a gamete with a mutation could pass it on to their to your offspring. And so here's some examples of mutations. Silent mutations do not affect protein function. So these, like a mutation may have happened, but the amino acid structure is the same, or we're substituting amino acids that don't completely change the protein folding, and so the function is the same. So these don't affect really the organism. Loss of function mutations prevent gene transcription or produce non-functional proteins. So they're nearly always recessive. So whatever the protein used to do, it no longer does. Gain of function mutations lead to a protein with altered function. So this is common in cancer cells because they gain function. They gain the ability to create new blood vessels and all sorts of different things. So here's just some examples of that. Normal allele codes for a protein. Silent mutation, the protein still works. Loss of function, something's happened where it no longer can bind to what it needs to bind to or do what it needs to do. And gain of function, it does something completely different now. So something else is happening over here. Those are gain of function mutations. So a specific type of mutation I'd like for you to know is called a point mutation. And it's a single nucleotide. That's the key. It's a single nucleotide. Let me see if I can write. Yes, sweet. Blue's probably not the best choice. But it's a single nucleotide sequence, okay? One specific place. So missense substitutions is when DNA codes for the wrong amino acid. It doesn't make sense, okay? Remember our activity when we were building English sentences from DNA. This would be like substituting a completely wrong letter and the word no longer makes sense. Nonsense mutations could be even worse in the sense that a codon for an amino acid becomes a stop codon. So this protein is rarely made correctly. Insertion and deletion is the addition, of course, or loss of a nucleotide, and these cause frame shift mutations, which I'll show you here in a second. So even small changes in the DNA code can cause genetic disorders. The change in literally just one amino acid causes sickle cell anemia. Glutamate turns into valine, and because of those completely different charges on those amino acids, now we no longer have normal hemoglobin, we have hemoglobin that clumps together. And that, of course, affects the organism as a whole. Sometimes you can lead to many strokes or various pains as blood clots trying to move through tiny capillaries. These are definitely negative effects. And so here's the normal sequence. It's A, G, T, C, G, A. It's pretty like a dark screen right there. But then you have a base substitution. And so A, C turned into A. That's a point mutation. And then frame shift is like you inserted. And so you see how the codon has completely changed. And so it either like shifts everything to the right, which would be insertion, or if you have a deletion, it shifts everything to the left. And this completely, of course, changes the amino acid structure because the 3 words, remember codons are 3-letter words. Those words have completely changed now because we've lost a letter early on, or maybe in the middle, perhaps even at the end of a coding sequence. And so here's just another picture here, DNA transcription. You can see that shifted reading frame, insertion. So this is what it should be, but now we've shifted it, and now it's completely different, and that can lead to huge problems. Not only can we have mutations on the DNA, like gene level, but we can also have mutations on the chromosomal level. Remember, chromosomes are DNA and protein tightly wrapped together. Chromosome mutations involve changes in the number or structure of chromosomes. And so here's some examples here. So here's your original chromosome. These stand for genes, A, B, C, D, E, F. And so your deletion, you lost the B. Duplication, now you doubled the B. That's happened often in many we'll talk probably a little bit about that in evolution when we discuss evolution and creation. The original inversion, we flipped it, and then translocation, we've completely taken genes from another location and inserted them. That's what they did in the lab to create the fruit flies with the legs on their heads. And so that's just another picture here. I would know these differences, pretty straightforward. These words, of course, kind of help you understand the meaning. So here's an example of chromosomal mutation. We talked about these a little bit when we talked about meiosis and what happens in non-disjunction, but you have trisomy 21, that's Down syndrome. People made in the image of God, beautiful people, very kind, very friendly, usually completely wonderful to hang around. But they do have 321s, and that affects their development. This is called cru de chat, or cru de chat. It comes from the French. It literally means cat's cry. And so we've lost part of chromosome 5, and that leads to lots of developmental issues, but also infants with this condition often have a high-pitched cry that sounds like that of a cat. You can look it up if you want to on YouTube. The disorder is characterized by struggles learning, delayed development, small head size, which is called microcephaly, sometimes even low birth weight. And so that's a problem. So how do mutations actually happen? Well, there's mutagens. So in genetics, a mutagen specifically is a physical or chemical agent that does what? It changes. Let's change the blue to like something brighter. Can I make it like a yellow? Sorry, rabbit trail. Yep, changes the genetic material of an organism and thus increases the frequency of mutations. Again, mutations doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, it's a good thing. It matters what the mutation codes for. As many mutations cause cancer, true, mutations are therefore also likely to be carcinogens. Carcinogens means causing cancer. If you look up in the news about pesticides and glyphosate, I believe, and Roundup and various things like all those carcinogens. I mean, sometimes you'll look at even perfume or cologne bottles, and they're known. Some of them are suspected to cause maybe cancer, and so it's crazy if you kind of dive into this stuff. And so a mutagen. Mutations can occur spontaneously. So DNA polymerase, the builder, right, can attach the wrong nucleotide sequence. Certain chemicals and radiation called mutagens also damage DNA. So chemicals can cause mispairing. High energy radiation can cause breaks in the DNA. Like radiation could be X-rays, CT scans, UV light. Obviously, we're exposed to radiation on a cosmic level daily when we go outside. And so that is kind of what happens there. Induced mutations are caused by mutagens. So we talked about it, chemicals. Some chemicals add other groups to the bases. So sometimes, like this one chemical, benzopyrene, it adds to guanine and prevents base pairing. Ionizing radiation, we talked about X-rays, UV radiation. Like we talked about in class, a tan, not necessarily the best thing, right? Dermatologists I've talked to, tanning is not the greatest choice for you and your future. But we live in Florida, people like a tan, but nonetheless, you have choices to make. Many mutagens are naturally occurring. So, for example, plants and fungi make many chemicals for defense. Radiation can also be natural, like we talked about, UV from the sun, human-made. There are about 16,000 from this textbook DNA damaging events per cell per day. 80% are repaired. So God designed your bodies to live and to adjust, which is pretty amazing. So mutations, though, they can have benefits. So it provides the raw material for evolution. We'll talk about that more, exactly what that means. But yeah, in order to have changes, we talked about it, being able to drink milk. Mutation arising from Europe and Africa in human beings. So it's the raw material for evolution. Again, evolution and creation, we'll dive into that as far as the biblical worldview goes. Diversity may benefit the organism immediately. So being able to adjust to the environment. Mutation in germline cells can cause better, adjustments in offspring. It could lead to different traits that could help the offspring survive and have a higher chance of surviving and reproducing. And so, let me take off the pen here. Sorry. Mutations can be harmful, so they can be beneficial, but they also can be harmful if they result in a loss of function of genes or other DNA sequences needed for survival. And that makes sense, right? Like if you need a certain protein to help you metabolize, let's say, an amino acid, and you can't break down that amino acid, but it's going to build up to toxic levels. And so harmful mutations, of course, in sex line cells, germline cells, can be passed to offspring. These can possibly lead to cancer. Just a brief biblical worldview. This is from Answers in Genesis, Christian website that defends the young earth belief in the Bible. Evolution teaches that over time, non-living chemicals gave rise to a living cell. Then this single-celled life form gave rise to many advanced life forms. So obviously we have to increase information. So here's the thing. In this situation, we have to increase information caused by mutations by chance. Okay, no intelligent design, nothing like that, by chance. So mutations have to add all the information. So there needs to be a gain, there should be a space there, in new information. But this information can't be nonsense, it actually has to mean something. And so, of course, going from a single cell to you, just imagine how much new information would have to be added. And to be honest, by random chance, that is challenging to believe. And we'll talk more about that. That's just a little preview of creation and evolution. So here's a picture from your book. And this would help you kind of understand, just using an analogy of English sentences, kind of what this stuff means. You can see this, different types of mutations, chromosomal and genes. And here's some examples: achondroplasia, muscular dystrophy, cystic fibrosis, that's a huge one. There's many different mutations that cause that. Crohn's disease, chronic inflammation of the large intestine, intestinal tract, sometimes even the small intestine, very painful. And then Huntington's, Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease. I think that's how you say it. Huntington's disease. So this is just in your book. I'll just pause it right here and kind of read that. But thank you so much again for watching this video. Thank you so much for your hard work and dedication. And Lord willing, I hope to see you soon. And hope you and your family are doing well. God bless.